Hi all, welcome to part 2. So Black's just played Queen B7 and I was struggling to find a decent plan here. I came up with Knight A2, so I've got an idea now of Queen A5 and Knight B4. So I want to both restrain Black's attack but also, put pressure on these pawns. So maybe, I could play it like King's Indian with White, attack on the Queen side, maybe even Rook C1 and C4 later. So I got a bit excited about the possibilities. My opponent now played D5, and now we have kind of French defence structure. So after F4, the opponent played G6, so he doesn't want me to play F5 at any point. That could weaken his king. So he's keeping everything very secure, very tight, as though there's no exploitable weaknesses. However, I thought, well, I can still try and peel open this structure by playing Rook Hg1 to play G4. But now there was the rude awakening of an immediate pawn sack by Black. I don't know if this was a panic reaction, but it's not what Rybka really recommends, this pawn sack, but it does create some counterplay along the d file, and the potential after knight c5 for me to give up the important dark square bishop. Now with the centre open like this, or well, it was open but now it's not, the bishops are going to be really good across the centre. And I did another bad move here. I gave up my dark squared bishop. I think because I didn't really want to, I didn't like intuitively the look of bishop e2 because of knight e4, and that's like, this looks like a really powerful knight. But actually it's no big deal. It's more, the danger is in how it looks rather than the position. If I keep the dark squared bishop, look at that power across the open centre here. Or here potentially if there was no pawn on e5. It's an important piece when the bishops are more important when the centre's open, I think. And I voluntarily gave it up, so this is a bad strategic blunder really, taking on c5, and Black's totally okay. Now, an instructive blunder. If the centre's open, don't give your opponent these raking bishops. Look at these bishops, huge. I mean, they single-handedly stop any potential for attack later, and they wipe out any idea of g4. If we go back in that position here, knight c5, if I just done bishop e2 to avoid losing the light square bishop, what has Black got here? If bishop h4, well, there's some interesting variations. Sorry, let's look at, I looked at this earlier. So queen a5, and so White's still got now this plan of knight b4, maybe taking on c6 to get this light square bishop. So bishops are all important. The more open the position is, it's their natural, environment, natural habitat. And look at this, knight takes c6. This would be an example of disaster for Black, because if queen takes c6, bishop f3, and now White would have the raking bishops across the same diagonals that my opponent had in the game. Let's say this continuation is much better for White. b3. Black would be very passive. Say bishop f2, great for White. Look at the central control. The queen's very good even on a5, line d8. And this kind of position, queen e1, big advantage to White, according to Rybka. So big pin there as well. Just following it through, just to give a taste of it. If Black's going to end up losing a piece now. And without much compensation. So that's just an example variation. So I gave up this very important dark square bishop, not very good strategically. Positions open, tactical, open centre, bishop's more important as a general rule. After castles, my opponent's king is actually very safe here. But I was trying to get in f5 and f6 without the possibility of rook e8 and bishop f8. So I thought it would be a good idea to weaken my own king position now and play b4, because I wanted to just kick it off this diagonal if I'm going to play f5 and something like queen g5 or queen g5 or h6 and then e6, which I still thought was kind of dangerous here, but I wasn't so convinced now after bishop d4. He's provoking more weaknesses. And he's got this potential, for bishop e4 if I'm not careful. Black's actually clearly better now, according to Rybka. There's nothing really. So I did try and blast the Black king. I'm not in a position to really, because maybe he can just take, say h5, bishop f3. Black's dead solid. There's no, there's hardly any attacking potential in the position here. You know, if Hg takes bishop's pinned to the queen, so queen h2, queen h7. Look, there's no attack. There's just no attacking resources here. So this position is a bit of a goner, and I just tried to unpin the bishop. Well, sorry, to avoid these skewing lines with king b2 on the diagonal. But he took on g2. Great move, because now he's got access to f3, and I start to fall apart. I play f5 anyway, but with the opponent having these like huge raking bishops, this is easy to parry this attack. Queen g5 I thought was a reasonably good try, but he just plays bishop f3. The attack's over. I'm collapsing now. If rook d2, well, I thought bishop e4 was good, but he can just play rook f8 to stop e6. There's nothing for white. Look at this horrible pin. My king's still vulnerable. This knight's totally out of the game. It's a disaster all round. So it stemmed, you know, I made the opponent look really good with his d-pawn sack earlier, and it's just an example really of how not to play open positions. You don't want to give the opponent raking, you know, bishops like this, because there's no real attack now. So I played e6, just sacking the exchange, but it's hopeless. Just plays queen f3. Look at this pressure. Doesn't mind me taking on f7. King just goes to g7. That's enough, and it's all over. I collapsed. This was the final moves. It was just hopeless. A sad end to the tournament, where I could have got more than 50%, but instructive nevertheless for how. Well, first of all, if we go back to some key moments, you know, in the opening, just trusting that the opponent was giving up d6 pawn, queen a5, when it could have actually been taken. I mean, that was the first major blunder. The second major blunder was after this d-pawn sack, to think that I'll just have the easier time with bishop c5, when this bishop's kind of vitally important, especially in these open like positions. So so bishop c5 was another major blunder, and after that, you know, Black's just got an easy game with the two bishops. No king safety worries at all, even though he's played h5 earlier. Anyway, please leave any comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.